What up? What up? What up? This Ibn Web, Quran is some here. Official thanks thing I got going on here. An Essex County all day edition here. While have the pleasure of having my high school coach, John Finnegan, Coach Finn. Those who know him, whether he's coached by a friend, et cetera here. Just a great man, has meant a lot to me and continues to do so. As far as, what he's done as far as not only coach, educator, father, husband, the list goes on and on and on. So I'm just gonna be quiet here and I guess have a conversation with my coach here. Hold tight. Nah, no problem, Coach Finn. Thank you for circling back with me on this. I really appreciate it. Like I mentioned to you when we talked, a bunch of people have asked as far as why haven't I had you on. I explained my glitch when I first started doing this here. So I'm glad and I'm very appreciative for you to circle back with me here.
No problem.
Yeah, just jump into it here. I know you're a man as far as having, do some things and pretty busy here. So I want to be respectful of your time here. So just Caldwell. Now you're born and raised in Caldwell, and as far as schooling and everything here, if I'm correct.
Yeah, myself and my whole family were raised in Caldwell. Went to St. Al's. There was 10 of us. So four, we all went to St. Al's Grammar School, and then 4 went to Immaculate, 4 went to James Caldwell, and 2 graduated from Essex Catholic. So we were kind of spread around.
I didn't know you had 10 siblings. I just found this out.
Yeah.
Wow. Where was you in the order?
About the middle. There are 3 younger.
Okay. Now, as far as just activities and things, not only with siblings, but friends, neighborhood, what have you here. How was you as a kid?
I was active. Played Little League baseball, Little League football, a little basketball, and then I had a paper route.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I used to have to run home from school, deliver the papers, and then go to practice. So.
Then what sport did you gravitate to early on as far as that you like?
Football. By the time I got to 7th and 8th grade, I liked it. And then went to Immaculate, and they were just returning to football. They had dropped it. And my freshman year, they brought it back. So they actually spread the word that they were looking for people to come because they wanted to bring back football. My sister was a student there, and she liked it a lot, and she introduced us. Let me turn this other computer off here.
Now, interesting. As you're doing that here, when you talk about, so when you got to Immaculate, I mean, it sounds like some things, change but still stay the same. But I'm just go back to when you said you got there, they just returned football here. Now, the freshman team just played back then. Was it just a varsity schedule, or how did that go?
It was kind of a mix. Okay. We played a few freshman games and JV. So, because they did have some sophomores, and the bulk of the team was my class of '73. But the class ahead had a few players, and the class ahead of that. So the guys that really didn't get the guys that were seniors that year. They let them play, but there was only a JV schedule, so that a lot of them weren't that interested. So we had a few seniors play, but it really was mostly juniors, sophomores, and a lot of freshmen.
And then even with Immaculate, as far as just playing the schedule back then, as far as trying to build the program back up, y'all probably, if you recall, y'all probably just played whoever y'all could, or would y'all automatically jump in the conference?
Yeah, it was an independent schedule for the first 2 years, freshman, sophomore year, and then by I think junior year we were in, I think it was called the Big 5, and then the next year it was the Big 6. It was parochial schools. Most of them are closed now. Our Lady of the Valley, Paul VI, Queen of Peace, St. Mary's Rutherford, Immaculate, and St. Cecilia's Englewood. I think the only one still open now are Immaculate and St. Mary's Rutherford.
No. It's interesting you mentioned the Valley. Just for the Immaculate in the Valley back then, like, just was every sport pretty much a big deal as far as having to play the Valley here? Because I know that was kind of the rivalry back when.
Yeah, that was definitely the rivalry. It was Thanksgiving game.
Okay.
It was a rivalry in basketball and baseball.
Hmm.
And both schools vied a lot for the same kids. When Immaculate dropped football in '63, a lot of those guys from Immaculate transferred to the Valley to play, and wound up playing for the Valley. And then obviously when we brought back football, and then later on in the 1980s when Valley closed, we got some of the Valley players transferred to Immaculate. And some of them also went to Bailey Ellard, where Joe Lennon, Immaculate graduate, was coaching. So
how was you as a player?
What's that?
How was you as a player?
I guess I was good enough.
Okay.
I started on defense. I played a little offense, but started on defense, played defensive tackle in high school, and then defensive end at Kane College.
Mm-hmm. And then going to King, playing in. Now that back then it was still the NJAC as far as the conference, the Jersey schools. Yeah,
it was the NJAC. Funny story. It was Newark State when I went there, and Ron Sanfilippo, who eventually became the AD at James Caldwell, was the head coach then. His brother Rich was the football coach at Glen Ridge, and then Nutley. So, but we were Newark State, and then they decided to change the name to Keene. So I forget who we were playing, but we played somebody, and we started the game as Newark State Squires, and then at halftime they changed their name, and we finished the game as the Keene College Cougars.
So that changed uniforms too, or they just changed the name?
No, they just changed the name. They didn't spend any money.
Hey, I didn't know. It sounded like a big deal back then. Well, I just learned something else. I never knew that was called Newark State. Shame on me. I never knew that.
Yeah, it was Newark State Teachers College. And I think years ago, Montclair State was called the Panzer School of Education.
And it's interesting. You talk about education. The whole becoming an educator, wanting a teacher, you mentioned obviously your college you went to focused on education. What made you want to become a teacher?
Mostly for coaching. I wanted to coach. When I went through college, I majored in, first I started in phys ed, and I didn't really like that. And then I went to social studies. And then I also was interested in the restaurant bar business because I did that part-time. And at one point I thought I was going to do that. And then eventually, that didn't happen. And it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. I put a bid in for a bar, and the guy raised it the day we were supposed to sign contracts. So I turned away from it. And it was a blessing in disguise, really.
And even with that blessing, as far as you got into coaching, I mean, you just started off, did you do little league or anything? You jumped right from high school as far as like the sub-varsity levels? How did that go?
John Allen, when Ron Sanfilippo left Kane and went to Caldwell, John Allen took over. John had coached Valesburg, and then he became the Keene College coach. He was assistant, then he became the head coach. And then when he left Keene, he went and coached. He had been the wrestling coach at Essex Catholic. He became their head football coach. So he called me up and asked me to come down and help him at Essex Catholic. So that was my first job right out of college, was coaching at Essex Catholic. I did the freshman team with a guy named Nick Colombo. His brother Mike is also a football coach, and Mike played for Seton Hall Prep and then I think Gettysburg, and now he's coaching at Immaculata High School. So
you're over at Essex, so you're coaching, and obviously the bug hits you here. So pretty much from there, you're just going to see how far you can just take this as far as ultimately becoming a head coach.
Yeah, I didn't get into it with the design. I just like coaching. So I did the freshman 2 years down there, and then a job opened up at Immaculate. Rich O'Connor, who was the head coach at Immaculate, who went on to coach Montclair State for many years, was the head coach, and he hired me. And then eventually he wound up leaving before the season started. But the next person who took over, Mike Critchley, I worked with him. And then I worked with Lou Rassiopi at Immaculate. So I was an assistant, I think, 6 or 7 years at Immaculate. 1 year with Mike Critchley and 6 with Lou Rassiopi, the Verona coach, and a former Immaculate coach.
Yeah. And then even coming back to Immaculate, I mean, it just sounds like it's always been a thing as far as you give back and you go back as far as the coach. Some actually teach, such as yourself as well. But just being at Immaculate as far as the athletes, and I haven't even talked about track yet. But in regards to just being there, was it a sense of pride just being able to coach your alma mater here?
Oh, definitely. Pride. You enjoyed the people you worked with. So I got to coach with Lou, Mike Malkinski. We were teammates. The Kiernan brothers were younger guys that we coached, and then they came back. Willie Taylor, Reggie Johnson. There was a nice mix of guys that over the years, there were a lot of them. Some guys we coached for 1, 2 years. Other guys stayed for more. Joe Daniele. Just a bunch of Immaculate graduates that came back and helped out and did what they could.
As far as you being there, and as far as the teams, is always above 500 for the most part here. But Coach Rassiopi, he leaves. Was that spot pretty much you paying your dues? You know it was going to be you, or you had to apply like everybody else?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly how it transpired, but I think Lou left, and I had good rapport with the kids. I coached them in football and I coached them with track, and most of them did both. So I think in that way it worked out. It wasn't a big transition for them. We didn't change much. Coach Mal left for 1 year and then he came back. Coach Daniele ran the defense. Coach Fess ran the defense, I believe. Really, probably should have looked up some notes on this.
Nah.
I don't
cool.
Give somebody a job they didn't have, but but those guys helped out a lot.
Did you change anything when you stepped into head coaching as far as being a coach?
No, we ran the same. We ran an I offense for my first 4 or 5 years. And then I finally smartened up and put the wing tee in.
For the wing tee comes here, you had some players. I mean, I don't know if you probably just missed Tyrone as far as head coaching him, or did you just miss, or were you?
No, Tyrone was my first year.
Okay.
He was can't believe he was a junior or a senior. But Tyrone was still there. Donald McDaniel,
all those guys, Corey Brown, all those guys.
A good group of kids. We just missed the playoffs because we had a tie. Back then, you had to have 7 wins. We were 6-2-1. We had a tie with Bailey Ellard that knocked us out, really.
Yeah. And then obviously,
and they wind up getting in. They were
and Bailey got in, huh?
They got in, and I think they went to the finals and lost to Pope John. But it was a good team.
And then even being in Colonial Hills back then, I mean, competitive as far as for small schools, I would say.
Yeah, it was very, very good. Mountain Lakes, Mendham was in it. They might have been out by the time you came, but then Verona replaced them. Cedar Grove, obviously, good tradition. Glen Ridge was good. They had some down years, but they had a great tradition for years under Bill Horry and Rich Sanfilippo. So the Colonial Hills is that was a good conference. It was a nice mix of Essex and Morris County.
Yeah.
Back then, some of the people would complain there were too long of bus rides in them.
That Burners was it was a ride. Burners was a ride.
Yeah, but later on, I think now you see teams traveling a lot further.
Yeah, teams jump on planes now.
Yeah, now it's absurd, some of it.
Yeah, that I know. So the wing tee, what inspired you to just say, "Hey, I'm switching over here. I'm move away."
Well, we ran the I, and then we ran the veer with I think your group, and I think I ran that for 3. I went out to North Dakota State, and,
right?
Watched them their spring practice. It was like in April, but it was still snowing out there. But that was, that was a good offense. I liked it, but there was some things about it that were tough. If you always had to have that quarterback that could read it and withstand taking the hits and throw. And then one of the things we also looked at was that we had to defend the wing tee so many times that the best way to learn how to defend it might have been or run it. So we basically went to it, kind of forced into it because so many teams in the league were running it, and we were having trouble with Mountain Lakes. So actually sat down with Doug Wilkins, the head coach of Mountain Lakes, and talked to him a few times. He was a great guy. Passed away about a year or two ago.
Yeah.
But he was willing to help and show you, good camaraderie back then. Hopefully it still exists with coaches where coaches would help you out and sit down and talk football or whatever.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that, like, he didn't have to do that, and just, kindness of his heart as far as just kind of showing you some of that stuff, and, and jokingly backfires on him a little bit. You get some wins against them, but the level of competition, and again, and you saying being good sports about competition as well too. So 94, how special was that for you to finally make it to the playoff? You made it to the playoffs the year before for the first time, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
We made it. We were 5-6. The 6th loss was to St. Joe's, Hamilton down there. We played in a northeaster. It was cold, wet, and rainy, and it was a terrible day. Most of the teams that played that Saturday, but they couldn't get a field. They didn't have their own field at that time. They used Hamilton. Okay. So they pushed the game to Sunday, and the weather was just awful. And we had to put kids in the shower, put them in the showers, hot showers, because some of the kids were getting hypothermia from the cold rain. But we hung in there. We lost 13-6, so we knew we could, and then we got them the next year. Just to backtrack, one of the things, when Doug Wilkins was showing me some of the stuff, he actually said, he goes, "This is probably going to beat me." But he goes, "This is," and particularly I remember him talking about Gil Ross. He says, "You got to put him on the edge and let him read and run." And that was a big difference maker. That, once we got, Gil on the edge, on the waggle, he's able to, hurt teams both throwing and passing.
Yeah. So. And speaking of Gil and just learning that, and he wound up, because again, wasn't a situation where, correct me if I'm wrong, it was a Thanksgiving game that you you completely scrapped something within 2 weeks, and that's when you put the wing tee in, or
yeah, that was the year before Phil Hunch was a senior.
Okay.
We moved Gil to quarterback. We had been running the veer, and then we just decided that we had, the 10 days prep, and we put Phil at halfback, Gil at quarterback, and we moved Jeff Kronheim, a big lineman. He was about 225, 230. Yeah. And we moved him to fullback, and we only ran about 5 or 6 plays. We ran belly, maybe quick trap, waggle, and sweep. So we just ran 5 or 6 base plays, and Kronheim had a great game. He just, bowled for yards, and Phil Hunt broke a sweep. Jeff. And Phil broke a long sweep, and we wound up upsetting. I think we were maybe 4-5, and we won Thanksgiving. But they had a winning record, and they were the heavy favorites. Yeah. And it was a pretty good curveball we gave them that day.
No. One of many that you've done, you've thrown throughout your time here. And I know that 94, you get Gil, we speaking on him here, and you get him and the rest of his teammates here. Did you know going into that year it was going to be special?
Yeah, we really believed in the group we had. We had Troy, Omar, Reggie, Gil. We had some good linemen. We thought we just had enough of that. A guy that doesn't get credit enough is Mr. Allen, Kenyon's dad, because he put together that basketball team at the grammar school, and those guys came to the high school, and then they also played football. They weren't, locked into playing one sport. But I got to, give him some due that he attracted those kids to play basketball for him in the grammar school, and then they just flowed right into the high school. I think that eventually that hurt the high school a little bit when they didn't have that grammar school anymore.
Yeah, I can see that. And those guys are kind of in sync with one another, just based on, to your point here, been playing with each other some type of sport, at least since they was probably about 4th, 5th, 6th grade there. So I'm sure that helped there. Any close games that year did y'all
have? Yeah, closest game we had was Chatham. Chatham at Chatham. We ran a wing T. Mike Judge, a very good wing T coach, and a coach at Chatham High for a year. And one of the ironies of that game, that their lead running back at the time was my nephew Dan Stats. So in the family was split that day. Some cheering for us and some on the other side cheering for Chatham. But it was a good game. He had a good game, and Reggie we had a great drive to shore the game up. And Reggie had a lot of big runs out of the fullback spot. But I think it was 13-7. It was a one-score game.
Okay. So I know you said Reg had a big game, and then going into the States here, I mean, again, you get Hamilton back, St. Joe's back of Hamilton. You get them on your turf, correct? You get them at Cody Field?
Yeah, we got them at Cody Field. And that was, historically, we had never had a state final at Cody Field. So it's one of the reasons we were real happy to get that. One of the funny stories about that I found out after the game, I was talking to the coach. They said they had a rough night. They stayed in a hotel. I forget the name of it, but it was in East Orange, and it was also some big party was being held at that hotel at that night, and the music played until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So the coach said our boys couldn't even get to sleep.
I mean, but you guys are destined to seem just even like with that team and what have you. Speaking of sleep, did you sleep the night before?
Yeah, I think I did. I don't know. Just so long ago.
Yeah, but I'm sure as a coach, though, you're human. I'm sure the nerves is kicking in at kickoff and even beforehand. Like, hey, this might be my one and only, but I'm here now. Let me go win this here. So I'm sure. How was you nervous?
Surely. But I was pretty confident that our kids knew what they were doing. They had seen, that offense. He was obviously running the wing T, the same as, with a few different wrinkles. So we had seen it. We were pretty healthy. I think the only guy, Deshaun Rucker had hurt his knee, but he was able to come back and play. Okay. In time, Dr. Palacios and McInerney had got him a brace. That was my biggest worry, just getting him back, because we wanted to make sure we had the line intact for the game.
So you guys get the win, and
Yeah, Gil had a big game.
Gil played good. Yeah.
Gil played good. Sean Red,
Mm-hmm.
Omar. It was a very good. We didn't turn the ball over. It was a good day for us.
Now let me ask, with the winning even that year, though you've had other athletes, go back then it was D1, 1AA or what have you, but did that start just bringing in even like a lot of different recruiters from some of the major Division ones? Because obviously a couple of guys went on to one of those programs.
Yeah, but there was the recruiters were pretty constant.
Okay.
That they came by. I think to me the only time you probably saw that stop was during COVID. That at both Immaculate and Seton Hall Prep,
Mm-hmm.
the college coaches do their jobs. They come around and they talk to you,
Okay.
and they'll come in, from all different levels, D1, D2, guys like George DeLeon, guys that were coached in different places. They'd come by. If you didn't have anybody, they still came by to say hello and
Okay.
encourage you to just keep in contact with them. So and I think it was part of their job, they tried to build relationships. So when they were after somebody, they could count on you at least making sure they got in.
Yeah, no, definitely had it. Was it ever any knock, because I'll talk about the Immaculate piece first, them being a small parochial B school, back then, as far as not finding kids, I think you find a kid anywhere, but was it always kind of one of those, did you ever have to like really push or press on a coach here, like, hey, this kid is worth your time?
Yeah, you would do it, but this thing that you kind of learn over time was that they're going to judge the film.
Mm-hmm.
You just had to make sure you had film ready, and it's the film that was going to do it, and the film and the grades, the transcripts that the transcript didn't look like, back then it was, I don't know what the qualifications are, but back then it was pretty cut and dry what you had to have. And if they didn't think you were going to project, that they wouldn't waste any time. They would just say, he's got to go to junior college or Division III.
Yeah.
Where the cutoff was a little different.
Mm. Now, what they say in sports sometimes, instead of now you're the hunted, you're a state champ, you start winning these conference titles, consecutively, state playoff appearances and everything here. So did it change your style of coaching, as far as now pretty much having one of the top tier teams, which you've had in the past, but this time you're actually winning conference titles and what have you
here? No, I think, it might have attracted some kids. I wasn't a big recruiter at any point in my career where, I ran around. I never really went to any little league games and recruited. But I think, when you had success, some kids would just naturally come. So I think, the 94 champs kind of in some ways set the table for the 98 champs, because people knew about us a little bit more and saw what we were doing, and more people came to the game. When you make the playoffs, people come and see you play. So just one feeds off the other a little bit.
And you mentioned 98 here. What was the difference with that state championship run and that team there?
A lot of similarities with the team. Both had great quarterbacks, Jameel Brown, and then the Hyder brothers. One was the split end, and Karif was in the backfield. So we had a lot of speed on that team. I think one of the things that we lost the first game, people forget, we lost to Verona 8-6 opening day, and that woke the kids up, and the work habits and the focus, got better. There's still some bumps along the way, but they realized they couldn't just show up, based on our talent and expect things to go well.
And I know I think you told me even with that loss, Jamil didn't play. Is it that game? It was a game he had to sit out because just acting up a little bit, I think, right?
I think it was Whippany Park. He and another player. I can't remember his name right now. It's bad.
No, it's all good. All good.
But two players, I believe, were caught out late. They weren't home when I gave a curfew call. So we sat them out. There was rumors going around that some players were going out. They were warned over and over again. They'll be home by 10 o'clock. And then, the way I remember it was I called these guys and they weren't home. So the guys who weren't home had to sit. And we just, Kareef's brother Carell moved to quarterback and we won pretty handily anyway.
Okay. Wow.
Carell was a great athlete. Carell could do anything. He could catch, he could run, throw. As was obviously Kareef,
I remember hearing about that team and those brothers there. I mean, while being there, any temptation to leave Immaculate, whether it's try to college ranks, quote unquote, a bigger high school, was any temptation to leave?
Well, I think, I would look, but not crazily. If there was a job that interested me, I might apply to see, and some of it's, financial. It was a small school. Right. You wanted to make sure you took care of your family financially also. So I did look a little, but I never found anything that was as good a fit as Immaculate until the Seton Hall position opened up. And that was an opportunity that I didn't want to miss. And, I wanted another challenge. I'd been at Immaculate about 18 years at that time. So when the Seton Hall position opened up and I got a chance to apply and got that, that was kind of the dream job for me in Essex County, to have an opportunity to work with Joe Walsh and Father Kelly, Mike Gallo, great people that were over there.
Being at Seton Hall there, let me ask, did your landscaping duties disappear when you got over there?
Yeah, I didn't have to cut grass. I didn't have to paint the field house.
Okay.
I didn't have to replace the wood in the bleachers.
Yeah.
So, everything. And they had a trainer there every day. So it's, really unique for me to have the, just not have to focus on everything else that went with it at Immaculate. You gotta worry about everything, who's working the gate the day of the game.
Yeah.
Is the concession stand got food? Stuff I had to do the day before the game at Immaculate was, extended. I have to make sure the field was lined. But it's just the way it was.
Nah,
you knew that going in, and that's. So.
Nah, it sounds like those additional resources just allowed you to coach. You had some energy. You could put that extra energy into whether it's coaching or educating or what have you there. So you bump up, I guess,
the difference
back then.
The difference in the two jobs at Immaculate, I was more of an administrator because I was the AD, and also in charge of making sure the field was ready. So I had to kind of move around. I think I might have had one class at times. In the beginning, I had two, and then I cut down. Eventually, I didn't have any classes. I was more AD and administrative. At Seton Hall, it was more, I went back to full-time teaching and coaching. So.
So from Colonial Hills to the Iron Hills, so you get the Randolphs. I'm trying to remember who else is in that conference, but I know Randolph.
Yeah, when we were, Morristown was very good.
Okay.
Back in the 2000s, they were very good. Randolph was good. Roxbury was good. West Morris was always good. West Morris, they had Mike Critchley, who was one of the guys I coached with, his sons played for West Morris. So you'd see some alumnus kids as you got older and kept coaching. You were running into people's sons on the field against you or with you, and sometimes playing with us at the prep. So it was fun. The Iron Hills was a good conference too. It had a lot of tradition. It was, Essex County, Morris County, just similar like the Colonial Hills. East Orange was in it.
That's right.
But at Columbia and then Morris County schools. So that was a good tradition there also. And then eventually that broke up and the SEC was formed. So those were the, go ahead.
No, you mentioned that whole changing of the conference, these super conferences. Were you a proponent of that, or you just frowned upon, like, you just breaking up some of these rival games where now, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like you just playing teams within your own county and you're seeing them all the time. It kind of takes away, that aura, that lore, because you keep playing the same schools over and over.
Yeah, sometimes you look at the schedule, there's not a lot of rhyme or reason to them. And it seemed like there was a little bit more rivalry. Like even the Colonial Hills, you had like half of it was Essex County, so you saw Essex County teams, but then you competed with the Morris County also, so it's kind of half and half. And the Iron Hills was like that. But I think today everything has evolved around the parochials and putting the parochials in one group and putting the publics in another. And now you also had a big push for getting down to one champion. I'm not sure, I think they're going to do that now, or get down to one in each group in the public division. So I think everything changes, so the progression and some of the coaches that push for different things, and nothing ever stays the same, that.
Nah, you're right. No, most definitely here. Now, in regards
your beard used to be jet black, and now it's
nothing stays the same. Nothing stays. Nothing stays the same here. I know. How's the pressure at City Hall? I know bigger school, bigger fan base. I won't say bigger fan base, but pressure a little different over there, particularly playing these Boscos, these other guys, Bergen Catholics. When you enter the state here, is it a different kind of atmosphere?
Yeah, well, definitely. There's definitely more people involved, but the administration was always very supportive of me and the coaching staff. I had a great coaching staff. Mark Smith, who was former Columbia head coach for 10 years, Pat Bobo from Morris Hills, Jimmy Cowan from Glen Ridge, Doug Hellstern was an assistant. So I had a great staff there. Barney Lantry, who was a head coach up in New York State. So we put together a real good staff, and we had the first year we struggled putting things in. We went 3-7, and then the next 11 years we never had another losing season. So I think in a lot of ways I like to think that and we put in a lifting program and an off-season program that worked very well. And set up, and one of the big goals was just to establish the winning tradition again. And we did that. We went, those 11 years in a row, and then the guys that followed me have done the same thing. Continued it and built it up. They progressed with the offense. I mean, we ran the wing T. We broke it up towards the latter part. The last 3 years, we put in some spread stuff with it. But it was, at the level that they're playing and the schedule they're playing, they made some nice changes, and they've upgraded the offense to, more modern approach than probably I had and was needed. So they're doing a great job. Coach Bill Fitzgerald is a super guy and does a great job. And obviously Vito Campanile's record speaks for itself. And he left obviously to go to Bergen, and he's doing a great job there. So proud of the program, both programs, even Immaculate's doing very well this year. So
how'd you know it was time to retire from coaching back at 2015?
I think it was, a combination of, the amount of time you're putting in, and I was missing a lot of family things. My daughter was active in volleyball at the college level, and I wasn't, I always scrambled trying to make a game. So I just decided I didn't want to miss everything. So I figured it was time to cut back, and I did it. It's one of those things, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. You're going to miss one aspect of your life, but you're not going to get the other aspect back either. So you got to make some tough decisions. So, and I stayed on with coaching track and teaching. I just gave up teaching in June, but I'm still coaching track and do some bus driving and helping out at Seton Hall and staying active.
Yeah, and I'm sure throughout the years the Finnegan household was supportive of you. I mean, might be some rough patches, but overall I think supportive and positive of
yeah. That never a complaint, and it was more, what I wanted to do, what I wanted to see and be part of. So
now you laid low for no, I was gonna say you laid low just for a couple of years here, but for some reason you found your way back to Immaculate here. Well, what happened with that situation?
Yeah, it was more of I think an opportunity there. It was late in the year and they needed a coach, and I stayed in touch with Mike Malkinski, who I think was president at the time, and Ryan Rand, who was the AD. So I went back. I said I'd do it for a year or two, and it wound up just 1 year because then COVID hit. But it was a fun experience. Kids were good. The administration was good, and it was just I didn't want to get back into it and full time. And also after 1 year, I kind of saw that what the kids need, and what they probably really need at most schools is they needed somebody in the building, somebody to be with them all the time, which is what they have now. You really got to maintain that tight relationship and be with the kids and on the kids to make sure everything's getting done, and make sure they're getting the practice. And they need somebody there that's always there. To me, it doesn't work that good if it's a part-time thing.
Yeah.
I mean, some guys can do it, but I just think it's not as well. I think that they need a presence.
And particularly, I think of a school like Immaculate, enrollment, being more on the low side, and you lose a kid for just doing something that he would act totally different if you were right there or knowing that you were in the school here. So, that definitely that plays a huge part.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Now I know. Speaking of just the schools that you've been at or what have you here, just wanted to ask as far as around, how has the diversity of students, and athletes impacted your career?
What do you mean by diversity?
Diversity, I mean, as far as where they're from or just in general.
Okay. I think it's like at Immaculate and Seton Hall. The kids are from all over. Immaculate. When I was there, it was predominantly Essex County. I know when I went back, one of the things I was surprised was that some of the kids came from, much farther away than we ever experienced. And I think that's still true there. And, I don't know why that is, but I think it's probably true at most parochial schools now that for whatever reason, people are willing to send their kids from further distance. And then at Seton Hall, I wasn't as surprised because they had a train route that was close by and they ran a shuttle. But Seton Hall Prep also had kids from, multiple counties and, traveling a good distance, some of them, traveling, a good 30, 40 minutes to get to school. but I think that, back in the day, most kids at Seton Hall were mostly from Essex County, and most kids from Immaculate were mostly from Essex County. And then, but today with transportation and with people willing to move their kids around and take them longer distance, it's kind of changed.
Yeah. Now, I just curious as far as you being the coach here, how'd you deal with difficult parents? Like, again, I know they want the best for their child, but some, I mean, I just think some of them, their kids are not as good as they think.
Yeah. To be honest, I didn't have that many parents. I've got obviously a few. They might try to corner you after a game or something like that. But it didn't happen too often.
Okay.
Both places, Immaculate and Seton Hall, at both jobs, parents were relatively good, relatively supportive. Occasionally, I guess people that's up in the stands heard more than I did.
Yeah. You're right about that. Yeah, you're right about that.
At one point, somebody that went to Immaculate said, "Oh, I went to a game, and everybody was yelling about you in the stands. I said, oh, what are you going to do?" I said, "That's why I'm down in the field." The old Lou Holtz line was, everybody used to ask him, why does he kneel down on the field so much during the game, crouch down? And his reply was, "I make a smaller target."
Yeah. Yeah, nah.
They want to start throwing something, they got to be a small target.
Nah, definitely. The stands could be pretty interesting place. Yeah, so sometimes being on the coaching field is a safe place to be, headset on, everything.
There you go.
No, absolutely here. Even with sports, what has it given you that sticks with you to this day? Like, what is sports, from growing up playing to even coaching? Like, what is sports giving you?
I still enjoy like the teaching aspect of it and watching the progression. One of the things I enjoy about coaching track and field, we've talked a lot about football, but is you still get a lot of kids that are kind of green. They, you're teaching them events, the shot put, the discus, the javelin. They've never done it before. So you're getting kind of, you're not getting somebody who's been coached up and has their set ways. You're getting them green, and really, so are really the other schools that you're competing against that people really haven't, for the most part. That occasionally, like, there's an outstanding thrower at Bergen Catholic this year. It's obviously when you see him that the young man's been well trained throughout. I believe it's his dad. But for the most part, with track and field, you're getting a raw canvas. You can work with them and compete on a kind of base level. Everybody's kind of going in the same way. So so I still enjoy that. And with track, football is so intense all year that you got to be on it. You got to be at clinics. You got to be in the weight room. It was just so time consuming. It's kind of a young man's game in a lot of respects. Whereas the track, you can coach it during the season, get them to work out on their own in the off season. And still, I like to get the multiple guy. We have a lot of guys on the Seton Hall track team that do both. They do football, they do basketball, they do track. And that was kind of our secret of our success at Immaculate for both track and football, was get guys to be multi-sport guys.
Interesting you say that. Two things. One, as far as the multi-sports, imagine if you had some of them Seton Hall prep basketball players actually playing for you, because you didn't get did you get your fair share of them, or not that many?
No, not that many basketball players would double up. And I think that's, you see that with a lot of them excel in grammar school, but then they gravitate if they can. They think their future's in basketball. They don't want to. The Gibbs brothers were tremendous football players before they got to the prep up. I wasn't able to convince any of them, and I had their uncle at Immaculate,
right,
and their dad coached with me at Immaculate. I still couldn't I begged them to come out, and they just didn't want to give it up. And you understand they're Division I prospects in basketball. They don't want to risk the injury, and plus basketball has fall leagues and summer leagues and everything.
Yeah.
The landscape has changed, and you got to do what you can do. And I think you'll see them occasionally, but you won't see many, that many kids doubling up in some of the sports. But
yeah, that's definitely, I think, taking a hit here. And I want to ask, even with the track, you say you take somebody that's pretty much raw canvas and you build them up. Unfortunately, you couldn't do that with me. I don't know if you recall, this javelin that I used to try to throw was used to twirl. So back then, I think if the internet was out, I might have been trending as far as for what not to do with a javelin.
Yeah, I think I got you a little too late. Should have got you earlier.
Yeah, and I found the way to warm up out of it too. I was like, oh no. Back then, me being knucklehead or whatever, I was like, I got to get out of here. This messed me all up.
But you were doing baseball too, right?
Yeah, I played. I played my last year of baseball. My freshman and senior year, I played baseball. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Now, can I throw you on the spot a little bit as far as just some random questions here? Just have some fun on the back end here.
Sure.
Cool. So, when driving, do you prefer the Parkway or the Turnpike? Parkway. Who has the best St. Patrick?
I hate the Turnpike.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Who has the best St. Patrick's Day parade?
For me, it's always West Orange. I haven't been to many others.
Okay.
To be honest. But I haven't been to any, but West Orange would be my call.
Speaking of West Orange here, Festus or the Torn Hat?
That was even up there.
That's
Well,
Okay.
I worked in the Torn Hat, so I was there a lot, so I would relax at Festus.
Now, because you talked about a bar, it's interesting. I didn't know if you ever tried to purchase a Torn Hat here back when.
No, it was actually it was a different bar. It was called the Franklin Tavern over on Franklin Avenue.
Okay.
I had put in a bid, it was accepted, and then at the last minute they backed out. And like I said, that was the best thing because the year later the Immaculate job opened up. I got it, so probably couldn't have done it. So somebody up there was looking out for me.
Yeah. When not coaching or teaching, like what do you enjoy doing? I mean, I know you as a coach, I know you as a teacher. Like, what do you enjoy doing?
I like to play golf. Little fishing. I go to the shore when I can. I just got a little lake house about a year ago.
Okay.
Go up there and walk around the lake. Take the dog. We have 3 dogs, so we walk the dogs up there and just a tiny little place, but it's just a nice little getaway to go to. I go to auctions. That's something I got into probably about 7, 8 years ago. I'll go to estate sales and stuff. So I keep pretty busy.
Good. No, definitely that's important. Very, very much so here. As far as Immaculate or Seton Hall?
How do you mean? I love both of the schools. I'm still at the prep, and I'm forever indebted to Father Kelly and Joe Walsh for giving me that opportunity. Pat Dyer and Sister Maureen over at Immaculate. Great people, dedicated their lives to Catholic schools and to kids. So I've had honor working at both places, and
Now, did you almost go to Union?
Union. I think I was a finalist for the job.
Okay.
I forget at what point that was.
Okay.
So
now,
and I think that's part of the that I don't know how life works sometimes, but I was a finalist at some pretty good jobs and didn't get them, and at the time it may upset you, but then when you eventually wind up where you do, you're glad it all happened the way it did. So I have no regrets. I'm glad at this point I'm glad I didn't get some of those jobs that I was finalist for, because I got the job that was a dream job for me, and work with people and kids and have memories at both schools that,
Right.
that you can't pay for.
Football or track and field?
Depends what time of year.
Okay. Is that the
No, I
season
love
of
them
sport?
both.
You love them both?
I love them. I love them both.
Mm-hmm.
And I would always tell kids, don't talk to me about track during football season, and don't talk to me about football. We're in the middle of a track meet. Focus, do what you're doing when you're doing it.
Mm-hmm. And even with the track, I can only imagine the athletes you done seen throughout your years here, whether it was Immaculate, whether it was at meet, seeing other Seton Hall prep. I can only imagine the athletes you done seen.
Well, yeah, and in New Jersey, like I've seen Carl Lewis. I've saw him multiple times at the meet of champs. McLaughlin from Union Catholic. Rich Knopf from Immaculate. Leighton Parros from Seton Hall. These guys ran for the country, competed and won NCAAs. So just some great talent and great opportunities. Right now at the prep, we have a great group of runners that's returning. So we're going to have we had a great season last year. We're going to have another great season coming up. I had a great assistant coach, Steve Tremblay, and Vic St. Pro, and Joe Cantera. So we, I still enjoy it immensely. It's more than something to do. It's, there's also people that's competitive. You train them hard, and then you watch them grow, and they go out and they do well, and then it all comes together. Football and track to me have some similarities. There's 11 positions in football, and track and field, the outdoor season, there's 15 events. So you've got to put a lot of different things, use a lot of different type of athletes and personalities to be good at either sport. So
interesting here. And I know Colonial Hills, Iron Hills, or Super Essex.
Never thought about it. I got good memories in all of them. Okay. So I would never put one above the other. I think I'd put the first two as more, maybe it's sentimental reasons. The Iron Hills and the Colonial Hills were kind of distinctive, and it lasted so long. Super Essex was kind of a short period of time. I guess it's still around for track, but for football, it kind of broke up. It wasn't around that long.
Wing T or the I?
Oh, definitely the wing T is. I like the wing T. I like the way some of it evolved, and it's got so many different variations. Obviously, the stuff they're doing today really stresses the defenses. Wing T. So the way the game's evolved has changed it. But at the high school level, the wing T is still proven to be pretty successful. I think the guy at St. Joe's is still running the wing T, and he's going to, if he's not the top winner, I think he's going to be. He won the most games in New Jersey history. And then Smolin up at Lenape had 300 plus wins. So you can definitely win it. I just reading in the paper, a few other guys they were talking about, still having success with the wing T. So in high school, I think it, can still be very successful. And even the veer, as Bill Regan up at Morris Knowles is still running the veer, 45 years in a row or something like that. And he's still winning,
And it's interesting with these offenses here. Did you have a favorite play you used to like to call, or you kept with you throughout the years?
It wasn't my favorite play, but I definitely called it. And the kids at the prep used to laugh and say they could always predict the first play was going to be a belly.
Belly. Okay.
It's going to just test teams right away with the belly. Can you stop our base play that we used a few different blocking schemes on it. We wanted to see what would happen. So the kids used to tease me all the time and say, guess what play we're opening with Belly.
Well,
So
interesting
every now and
enough.
then, like Sean McGuire would convince me to open up with a pass.
Okay.
Sean went and played for Florida State, and now he's coaching at Texas A&M.
Yeah.
And, we had a game against Morristown, and he got me to do it, and we had a big opening play and spurred us on the rest of the day.
No,
But probably should have mixed it up more when you look back at it. But what are you gonna do?
It's interesting. Like you mentioned, Sean McGuire, but you mentioned the belly, and you had one of the years you had one of the record-setting backs that scored the most points or touchdowns in Essex County, I believe. Correct, Kevin, I think it was.
Yeah, Kevin Manungai, whose brother's the running back at Rutgers now. His brother is probably their top running back. Yeah, Kevin was unbelievable. So we ran the wing T plays with him, and then we ran some quick pitches and just a lot of different things. We had a great line, great schemes. Jimmy Cowan and Pat Bobo put together those blocking schemes. And, but Kevin was he was unbelievable. Funny thing was that during one of my interviews with I forget what cable or whatever, Kevin he wanted to go to Rutgers, and I sent him. I said Shiano's missing the boat by not going after Kevin Manungai, and now Kyle wind up with him.
Now he's there. Look at that.
Yeah, so he eventually, I guess, he heard me that Manungais were pretty good players. You better get one.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Now, Orange Road and in between Orange Road, there was the Draper Terrace here. Like, there's a place that was sentimental to a lot of us here, the Field House here. Now, a question to you: if those walls could talk, what would they say?
If those walls could talk, they'd be talking a lot. That was a field house all the way back, like in the 1940s and so on. So there's an old tree there on the side. It's still, and if you look like 20 feet up in the tree, there's still like initials and from guys that carved their name that was probably ground level, but now the initials are way up in the tree.
Wow.
Where these guys, and then down in the basement, there's some old, at least there used to be some old painted wooden lockers with guys' names from the 1950s and stuff. So there's a lot of, now that, have you been in the field house?
It's been some time.
Yeah, they fixed it up pretty good. Alumnus Ed Martoglio, who was also from Caldwell and played with me, he donated a lot of money to fix it up, put in new floors and windows, doors. So he did a lot of donating there that fixed it up for the boys.
Best game you ever coached? Anything stick out?
No, we had a lot of comeback wins at Immaculate with Terrence. That was a fun year, beating St. Mary's. And then the same thing, we had a lot of fun year comeback wins with the quarterback, one of the Berkeley brothers at Seton Hall. But there was a lot of, I like those games the most when you come back and win the game. Those would be my most fit, not one particular, but those two seasons just were fun seasons where we just kept coming back. And winning in overtime is also, when you won in overtime, those were great fun.
Nah, definitely. Those sound exciting. Definitely sound exciting here. Now, what's the best team you ever coached? I know you don't like to answer that, but I had that.
Well, I think obviously the 10 at Seton Hall, the 10-1 team was probably it. At Immaculate, I'd say that might be a tie. Maybe the undefeated team gets it because they're undefeated.
Okay. Is there Is there a game every now and then you think about the game you like to have back?
I think about the game you got hurt. And
Oh, okay.
we went for the
Thanksgiving.
2-point
Okay.
2-point conversion. I thought about that 2-point conversion for about 3 years.
Really? Because I think
We
it was
went-
Eugene. It was like a quarterback sweep or
yeah, we
something like
put
that,
him
right?
in and we weren't sure what he could execute because he was just going into the game. And we tried to give him a formation and give him a quarterback sneak, thinking we'd spread him out. And we just came up just short.
Yeah.
If I could do that again, I'd probably give the ball to Kinsler or Mooney.
Okay.
Give it to a senior. So I always regretted that because we put a sophomore on the spot and should have gave it to one of the seniors to that really would, in my opinion now, like you just let a senior have it. So it was you learn some lessons when you're coaching. But
no.
that game, that was one of the biggest regrets I have was that one.
Yeah.
Now I heard his son is that you that told me his son is Jakeem's son is doing well?
Yeah, is that Bergen Catholic?
Bergen? Yeah.
That Bergen Catholic here. Speaking of my time here, did you ever run that Bobcat ever again in your life after?
Polecat, you mean?
Polecat, I said Bobcat. There we go.
Yeah, that's a run and shoot. Yeah, we ran that a few different times. We had some fun with that one.
Okay. Nah, interested here. Nah, if you had a state championship game here and you you need a starting quarterback, you going with Gil Roth, Jamil Brown, or Sean McGuire?
I'm not answering that one. To be honest, it would probably be Sean McGuire. If I could, and the other regret I might have is if I could do it over again, I definitely let him throw more.
Yeah.
So those other guys, obviously they proved they're more defensive-minded players. They play quarterback, but they went on to play defensively in college.
Yeah. Is Sean the best player you ever coached?
Sean's the most into football player I ever coached, and he's the guy that he's gonna have a tremendous coaching career now. He's at Texas A&M, and he's gonna climb the coaching ladder.
That's good stuff.
Great kid, great worker in high school, great athlete, great competitor. Proved it in college where he hung in there and did his thing when they gave him a chance. And
because he's behind Winston, and he played in that whole Winston situation, right?
Yeah, he played whenever Winston didn't play. Did what beat Clemson. He's just a great kid.
No, he sounds like it here. It was best high school athlete you ever seen. I mean, even if it's your time or even throughout the years.
Probably one of my favorites, and Alex Wujak was an unbelievable athlete. Could play basketball, middle linebacker in football, could catch anything. Was fast. He's a tremendous athlete.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all good. Kevin Monungai was a great athlete, career fighter. There's a lot of them, but Alex was different. That was a big kid and could do so many things well as a big kid.
Yeah. Let me ask about Mackler. The Mackler kids, throughout the ones that you've had, could they have played on your Seton Hall teams?
What's that?
The Mackler kids, could they have played on your Seton Hall teams?
Oh yeah, I mean, and vice versa. I mean, great athletes, great athlete. If you go on and play in college, I think you could play almost any high school. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Yeah. The athletic ability is athletic ability. The difference, people there, what's the difference? Difference is depth. At Seton Hall, we had much more depth. In athletes. We never had depth at Immaculate. That to me, that's the difference in the size and scope of your players and how many you're getting, and the things you can do. Like the work we do in the weight room at Seton Hall doesn't compare to the work we did in the weight room when we were at Immaculate. So
What's best part about being John Finnegan here?
My family,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
My wife and kids.
Yeah. And speaking of the kids here, best part about being a father.
Just watching them grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Getting that time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Book on your life. What would you call it?
We do this again, you're gonna give me these questions beforehand.
No, that's the fun part of it. That's the fun part of
it. I'll go with Yogi Berra's line. It ain't over till it's over.
Yeah. And how about those Yanks? I know you got a Yanks shirt on now. Aaron Judge lighting it up, huh?
I'm one of those guys. I like the Yankees and the Mets. That's only I'll put the Yankees on, but I root for them both. I root for the local teams, whoever the local teams are to me. Okay. The only ones that when the Nets moved, I kind of gave up on the Nets. Now I'm more of a Knick guy.
Oh, no, I stayed with them. So
did you?
Yeah, I stayed.
I just couldn't understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah. Now, as far as at this point in your life, what advice would you give that young 17, 18-year-old John Finnegan? Like everything that you done obviously went through and done in your life here. What advice would you give him?
I guess advice every young kid should, everything in moderation.
Okay. Yeah.
Be too extreme on yourself in anything or in any of the things you're doing.
Yeah. And on my end here, Coach Finn, I just wanted to share. I mean, I'm just taking the time to do this here, and just me. I didn't share this here, and actually, I looked it up because I was just curious here, and shamefully, I know you've almost had 200. You almost had 200 wins. I think it was 193 or something like that, I believe. Or might be a little bit more. After more, it might be a little bit more, right?
It's 199.
All right. Well, I owe you a huge apology because about 15% of your losses come from me. So I could easily got you over 200 and 200 plus here. So somehow, some way, it didn't work out here. So I owe you a lifetime apology in regards to your coaching ranks in regards to that. But
I look at it the other way that you led us to a winning season, and after that, the ball kind of rolled.
Yeah.
So.
And you mentioned a tie earlier that you had early on in your career. So something's wrong because you had another tie with me, and I gave you a tie as well.
I think there was 3 ties. Maybe.
Okay. Yeah, so
but it still don't add up to 200.
Nah, that's what I said. I can't even take that tie, make it a win here. So, but jokingly, I say that, and also sincerely, but also just what you've done for me. I mean, again, I just remember going to Macklin, taking the tour, me and a couple of guys who played Cobras here, and we wound up, out of that group, I'm the only one that wound up going to Macklin here, but just the knucklehead stuff that I've done, and I can only imagine some of the conversations, and you just pushing to keep me actually in school, and let alone playing football here, because I know I was supposed to probably be going for a few things that I did, early on in my high school career, but you allowed me to go along with everybody else here, and even academically not doing so well here. You don't recall this, but you may not recall it, but I remember it was one of those elective kind of classes. I don't know if it was typing or something here, but you allowed somehow I got accredited, or I'm using the wrong word here, but where it could help boost my GPA up to kind of hopefully make a move or something as far as college or what have you here. But and lastly, you probably don't know this, but my father shared with me, one time, I know with the whole situation with high school and prep school, and financially not necessarily having the money here, you offered to help out financially, and I've never forgotten that. Even my father shared that with me as an adult. You didn't have to do that, and I just wanted to say thank you, not only for that, but the thousands of athletes and students and everybody that you've allowed to be in your life here, and also the rest of your kids and your wife have allowed us to be a part of your life as well too. So I just wanted, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, to say thank you for all that you've done for me and countless others here.
Thank you. It's you don't need to say any of that stuff, but it's been a pleasure. I've had a good good life coaching. It's given me a good life. So
Yeah. And again, I know you don't like to, you don't like to hear, but you gotta acknowledge you when I gotta acknowledge you. Whenever I get a chance to just to let you know here, like I said, because like I said, I joke, I say, well, when I saw it, I realized I was just like, well, I'm the reason he didn't, reach certain milestones with some victories here, but it's all good.
Yep, it's all good, and I'm proud of everything you're doing with the show, and especially with your teaching and your social work. You made some great contributions yourself, and keep it up, and keep chopping or whatever slogan you use to keep moving it forward.
Nah, absolutely not. Nah, thank you, Coach Finn, and I definitely be in touch soon. Get my butt down to Jersey, try to catch up, grab a bite to eat or something here.
Definitely, that'd be fun.
Nah, I appreciate it, Coach Finn. You be well, and say hello to Mrs. Finnegan for me.
I will.
All right, take care.
Have a good day.
All right, you too. All right.
Bye.
Bye. Good stuff. Just have an opportunity to talk to my high school coach. I think to call somebody coach, even as a full-blown adult here, means a lot. You got some coaches, they become, on a first name basis to some people, but that word coach, educator, teacher, what have you, just means the world. And Coach Finn, thank you for being a part of my life at that very important time, those teenage years. You don't know what the hell's going on emotionally and everything else here. So thanks for everything, all that you've done for me and everybody else. And with that said, I'm just going to step away. I put my hand over my heart. That means I feel you. Yeah.